Let me start with a simple question. Is anybody out there, and I don't mean your neighbors, I mean anybody, anywhere in this vast universe? Think about it. We've got billions of galaxies. Each galaxy has billions of stars, and statistically, many of those stars should have planets around them. And on some of those planets, conditions might be right for life to develop. Yet when we look around, when we listen as carefully as we can, we hear nothing. Complete silence. And that silence is what I want to explore with you today. Now, you might think I'm going to tell you some comforting story about how we're probably not alone, how life must be out there somewhere. But I'm not interested in comforting stories. I'm interested in what the evidence actually suggests. And the evidence, such as it is peculiar. It's peculiar enough to make you think, really think about what it might mean. Let's begin with something I find absolutely fascinating. The Copernican Principle. You've probably heard about this. Copernicus told us that Earth is not the center of everything. We're not special. We're just one planet orbiting one star in one galaxy among billions. And that was a revolutionary idea. It knocked humanity off its pedestal. We were no longer the important thing. We were just a planet, a little rock spinning around the sun. But here's the thing about that realization. Once we accepted that we're not special, we assumed that everything else about us must not be special either. So we thought, well, if Earth is ordinary, then life arising on Earth should be ordinary. And if life is ordinary, then intelligent life should be ordinary. And if intelligent life is ordinary, then we should see evidence of it everywhere. We should hear radio signals. We should see their engineering projects from space. We should find something, but we don't. We find nothing. This is the Fermi Paradox, named after Enrico Fermi, a physicist who asked a very straightforward question: where is everybody? And that question has been haunting us for decades because the logical answer should be simple. The universe is so immense, the possibilities so vast, that intelligent life should have emerged countless times. We should be drowning in evidence of other civilizations, and yet we're not. So what does this silence mean? Well, I can think of several possibilities, and none of them are particularly comforting. Let me walk through them, because this is where it gets interesting, and also where it gets a bit lonely. The first possibility is that we are uniquely alone. Life arose here on Earth, and it arose remarkably quickly after conditions became favorable. An intelligent life arose, and we managed to develop technology. We managed to build radios and telescopes. We managed to look out and wonder. But everywhere else in the universe, despite the countless planets, life never got started. Or if it did, it never went anywhere. It stayed as simple, primitive organisms. It never developed into anything complex. It never developed consciousness. It never developed the ability to wonder or communicate across the stars. Maybe the jump from non-life to life is much, much harder than we think. Maybe it's so improbable that it only happened once. In that case, we would truly be alone, uniquely, cosmically alone. Now think about that for a moment. If that's true, then what we have here, what we experience here on Earth, all the thinking, all the wondering, all the art and music and mathematics and physics, all of that might be the only thinking that's happening anywhere in the observable universe. Doesn't that seem almost impossibly precious or impossibly depressing, depending on how you look at it? The second possibility is that life exists, but intelligent life is vanishingly rare. Maybe life got started on thousands of planets. Maybe millions of planets have simple organisms, bacteria, nothing complex. But the jump from simple life to complex life, and then the jump from complex life to intelligent life, maybe those jumps are so improbable that they almost never happen. Maybe intelligence is so rare that we've never had the chance to bump into another intelligent civilization. In the entire Milky Way galaxy, with its hundreds of billions of stars, maybe we're the only ones. Or maybe there's one other civilization somewhere in a galaxy a billion light years away. But for all practical purposes, we might as well be alone. The distances are so great that contact would be impossible. And here's where I want to be careful about something. We like to imagine that if we found other intelligent life, it would be wise and advanced and want to teach us wonderful things. But think about that carefully. Any civilization that could reach us would likely be far more advanced than we are. Think about what the most advanced civilizations on Earth, militarily and technologically, have done to less advanced civilizations they encountered. Do we really want to find that out on a cosmic scale? Maybe the silence is a mercy. Maybe we haven't heard from anybody because the probability of peaceful contact across the stars is vanishingly small. But let's continue with the third possibility. Maybe life exists, intelligent life exists, but we don't see evidence of it because of a concept called the Great Filter. The idea is this: somewhere between simple non-living chemistry and an advanced spacefaring civilization, there's a filter, a stage that's almost impossibly hard to get through. And civilization after civilization gets stopped at this filter. They make it past developing life. Maybe they make it past developing intelligence. But somewhere along the way, they hit this wall they can't get through. Maybe it's a technological threshold they can't overcome. Maybe it's a stage where civilizations inevitably destroy themselves. Maybe it's something we haven't even imagined. So we don't see other civilizations, not because they haven't evolved, but because they've all encountered this filter and failed to get past it. Now here's something sobering to think about. If the Great Filter is behind us, if we've already passed it, then we should expect to find many more advanced civilizations out there, because they would have all passed the same difficult stage we passed. But we don't see them. Silence. If the Great Filter is ahead of us, if it's something we haven't reached yet, then the silence might be telling us that whatever it is, it's something very few civilizations survive. And we're probably going to hit it too. You see, this is where the cosmic loneliness gets real. It's not just the isolation of being on this planet. It's the possibility that we're isolated because of some fundamental feature of existence that keeps intelligent civilizations apart, or scattered, or extinct. Let me talk about this from another angle. The Drake equation. Some of you might have heard about it. It's a formula that tries to estimate the number of communicative civilizations in the Milky Way. You multiply together a bunch of factors: the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars with planets, the fraction of planets where life could begin, the fraction of those where life actually begins, the fraction where intelligent life develops, the fraction that develops technology, and how long such civilizations last. And when you plug in reasonable numbers, not optimistic numbers, just reasonable ones, you sometimes get hundreds of intelligent civilizations in our galaxy alone. Other times, you get one, just us. The enormous sensitivity of that equation to small changes in any of the factors is telling. It's telling us that we don't actually know. We have no idea where to plug in the numbers because we only have one example: us. Here's something that fascinates me. In my field of physics, we talk about the anthropic principle, the idea that the universe must be compatible with conscious life observing it, because here we are, observing it. We shouldn't be surprised by the constants of nature that support life, because if they didn't, we wouldn't be here to measure them. But you can apply that same principle to the Fermi Paradox. We shouldn't be surprised that we're in a universe where we don't see other intelligent civilizations, because if the universe were teeming with intelligent life, it would be structured very differently, and we wouldn't have evolved to the point where we could wonder about this question. We might be the observers in the universe, not because we're the only ones, but because the conditions that allow observers to ask this question are fragile and rare. Let me step back from the technical for a moment and talk about what this actually means for you, for us, sitting here on this planet. I don't know if we're alone or not. I don't think anybody knows. But the possibility that we might be the only observers in the observable universe, or at least functionally alone within any distance that matters, that possibility changes something about how you see the world, doesn't it? Think about it. Every conversation you have, every person you meet, every culture and language and art form and way of thinking, all of that would represent the only example of those things that has ever existed, ever, in the entire cosmos. That makes the ordinary extraordinary. A jazz musician in New Orleans, improvising on a theme, creating something new that's never been created anywhere else in the universe. A mathematician in Tokyo, proving a theorem. A poet in Brazil, expressing something about human feeling that might be completely unique in existence. A child learning to read for the first time. These things wouldn't just be valuable, they would be irreplaceable. They would be cosmically precious. Now, I said I didn't want to comfort you, and I meant that. But I also don't want to depress you needlessly. So let me be clear about what we actually don't know. We don't know if we're alone. The universe might be teeming with life. There might be billions of intelligences thinking right now, somewhere across the vast distances. The silence might not mean absence. It might mean separation. enormous light-year spanning separation that makes contact impossible with our current understanding of physics. Or it might mean that different civilizations choose not to broadcast, choose not to be found, choose to remain hidden. There are any number of explanations we haven't thought of yet. The universe has a remarkable talent for being stranger and more intricate than our imaginations. What I do know is this: we don't have final answers about life in the universe, and I find that oddly comforting in a way. If we knew everything, if the universe was fully understood and mapped out, there would be nothing left to wonder about. But the mystery, the sheer scope of questions we can't answer, that's where the pleasure is. That's where the deep satisfaction of being a thinking creature comes in. The fact that I don't know whether we're alone is almost as interesting to me as the answer would be. There's something I wrote about this a long time ago, about standing at the seashore and thinking about the vastness of time and space and this little planet. And I said something like, a mite makes the sea roar. That's the idea. From the perspective of a mite, a tiny creature, the sea is enormous. It's terrifying. It's beyond comprehension. But the sea is just a sea. The mite is still there, still observing, still experiencing. And we're like that. We're looking out at a universe so vast that our minds can barely grasp the scale. And we might be utterly alone in it, and that might seem terrifying. But we're still here. We're still thinking. We're still wondering. And that wondering, that consciousness, that is not trivial. Let me be direct about something. The fear of cosmic loneliness is a real fear. It's rooted in something genuine. We evolved to be social creatures. We evolved to need others. And on a profound level, we might need others, not just for survival, but for meaning. When you think about being truly alone in the universe, without even the hope of contact with other conscious beings that touches something deep in the human psyche, it can feel like meaninglessness, like we're just patterns of matter in an indifferent cosmos going through the motions. But I want to push back on that a little bit, because here's what I think. The fact that we're conscious, that we can think and wonder and create and love, that is not a small thing. That is the most remarkable thing we know about in the universe. We've sent probes to Mars. We've looked at distant galaxies. We've studied quantum mechanics and relativity. And every single thing we've found, everything we've learned, comes from the activity of conscious beings on a small planet. If we're alone, then every bit of knowledge about the universe comes from the minds of creatures on Earth. Every equation, every discovery, every moment of insight and beauty is the universe experiencing itself through us. I'm not saying that to make you feel special in some egotistical way. I'm saying it to make you understand that consciousness, thinking, wondering, it's fundamental. It's not a side effect of matter. It's something so rare and unusual that we should take it seriously. And maybe the reason we don't see other conscious beings out there in the universe is because consciousness itself is the great filter. Maybe becoming conscious, becoming the kind of creature that can ask why and what does it all mean, maybe that's so improbable, so difficult to achieve that it almost never happens. Now, what do we do with that knowledge? Or what do we do with our ignorance, since that's really what we're dealing with? I think the answer is we continue. We continue to look. We continue to listen. We keep sending our probes and our signals out into the darkness. We continue to develop our science and our understanding, not because we have any certainty we'll find anybody out there, but because the search itself is meaningful. The act of wondering is meaningful. And in the meantime, while we're looking outward, I think it's worth looking inward and thinking about what we have here. The fact that we're conscious, the fact that we can love, the fact that we can create, the fact that we can understand, even partially and imperfectly, the universe around us. Those things are not contingent on whether there are other intelligences out there. They would be precious, even if we were the last thinking beings in existence. There's a phrase people use sometimes, you are the universe experiencing itself. And I know that sounds a little mystical, a little new agey, and that's not really my style, but there's something true about it. Everything that's happening in your consciousness right now, the activity of your brain, the pattern of thoughts and feelings and sensations, all of that is the universe. It's matter arranged in an improbable way, matter that's become conscious of itself. And that's strange enough and significant enough that we should spend time on it. So here's what I want to leave you with. The loneliness that comes from looking at the stars and wondering if we're alone, that's a legitimate feeling. It's not something to dismiss or be ashamed of. But that loneliness doesn't have to be depressing. It can also be clarifying. It can help you understand what matters. It can help you appreciate the present moment, the people around you, the consciousness you experience right now more fully. Because these things might be unusual in the universe. They might be rare. They might even be unique. And that makes them worth paying attention to. I wish I had answers to give you about whether we're alone. I don't. Nobody does. But I think the questions themselves are worth holding on to, and the mystery is worth exploring. Not because I'm confident we'll find answers, but because the act of looking, of wondering, of pushing against the boundaries of our understanding, that's what makes us human. That's what makes consciousness special, whether or not there's anybody else out there to share it with. So next time you look up at the night sky, don't just think about how small you are. Think about how remarkable it is that you can look up at all. Think about how remarkable it is that the universe, this vast, cold, impersonal cosmos, has produced at least one place where atoms have arranged themselves into something that can wonder about their own existence. You are that arrangement, and that, I think, is pretty special.